Hello, everybody, and welcome. In this week's video, we're talking about some tips and tricks to making your Blue Hour images look great. This is kind of like a full walkthrough video. I show you a quick and dirty, super fast and simple, easy way that I edit my Blue Hour images. You can replicate this process on your own images and make them look great. It's super simple, super easy, and this video does move pretty fast. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in on that editing. We're going to be in Photoshop doing this tutorial. And you can see that I've got the image open. Now, the first thing that I don't like about this image is that there's a lack of stars. So if we go ahead and zoom in here, you can see that there's some stars, but they're not super bright. Now, there's a really easy way to fix that, and it's by artificially adding the stars. So if you're not into that kind of thing, go ahead and skip past this part, and you can pick this video back up after I add these stars. But if you do want to see this concept, it's a really cool way to do it. So what I've done is I've got this other image here where I've got some stars. This is from later that night back at camp. I just shot this photo up of the stars. This is the same direction that this peak was in, so this is pretty realistic to think that these would be relatively close to the stars that would actually be behind there. Now I can go ahead and change the blend mode to lighten, and you can see it doesn't look very good because it's all over in the trees. So how we can get rid of that is go ahead and hide this layer, select the bottom layer. You're going to go down to select color range, and you are going to select a sampled color. You're just going to click in here to grab this blue, and then you want to adjust the fuzziness so that the foreground is black and the sky is totally white. So right about, let's say in here, looks good to me. And this value is going to change depending on your image, so don't get locked in thinking that like 84 is the way to go. I might actually go a little bit darker. Let's go 76. I'm going to hit OK and let that load out. Now that's loaded as a selection. If I select my star layer here and I go ahead and apply it as a layer mask by clicking the layer mask button, you can see now that all of these stars have been added to the frame. Looks really nice. Now, if you want to go even a step further to make the stars brighter, you can even duplicate this layer, and you can go ahead and hit Command T to transform, and then just push up on the D-pad once and hit enter. Now when I zoom in here, you will see, and if you're finding that the stars are a little too jumpy, like you can see here now we've got like duplicate copies, go ahead and hit Command T again. Now that we're zoomed in, if we use the arrow key, they will separate much, much less. So somewhere maybe about right there. You can see now the before and the after. You can do that effect as many times as you want. We just use that to brighten the stars. It's a really nice, simple, easy, quick technique to kind of make those stars really pop out and glow. Now that we have this done, I want to go ahead and merge these layers. I can do that on a Mac by hitting Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E. On a PC, that would be Control, Alt, Shift, and E. Now that we have this layer, we're going to go up to Filter and down to Camera Raw. This is the way I like to start all of my images here in Camera Raw by just adjusting some of these basic sliders. Now, I usually like to drop the highlights just a touch, and I will usually bring up the shadows, the whites, and the blacks. And I usually like to bring those whites up just to give it a little bit of a punch, kind of. And let's adjust the shadows and the blacks as well. Somewhere about in there is looking good for my image. I'm noticing the image is way too blue. I could adjust it here, or I could do it a little bit different way, which I'm going to show you guys in just a second. So don't mind that too much right now. So you can go ahead and add to the texture as well if you want, and clarity. It's looking pretty good. I don't like to add too much texture or clarity, usually never more than 10 points. And that's looking really good. I'm going to go ahead and let that load out. I'm going to hit OK down here, and then we'll make some changes after that. So now you can see we are here. Let's go ahead and bring up that color balance layer. I'm going to go down here and click on the adjustment layers, open up color balance, and I'm going to leave it on midtones, and I'm just going to adjust the colors. So you can see the image is too blue. Even though it's a Blue Hour shot, it's a little too blue for my liking, and the way that I know that is these trees, which should be pretty much totally black, are coming off a little bit blue to me. So I am going to slide this over until I find it's at a good spot, probably about right there. And I don't want to go too far to make the image yellow because we obviously don't want it to be yellow if it's a Blue Hour image. Right about there is looking good. And I might even adjust a couple of these as well. Maybe the magenta will add just a touch, maybe 2 points. You can see the before. and the after. So the image is a lot more neutral toned after, which is looking great. If you do desaturate the blues by doing this, don't worry, you can easily bring that back up later, and I will show you guys how. The next thing that I want to do is I want to do a little bit of warping here, because when I remember shooting this scene, I remember it was pretty dark outside, but I could still see the outline of the mountain, and the mountain was huge in my scene. I felt like it filled up the sky, but because I was using a wide angle lens, it appears really, really small. So let's go ahead and increase the size of that mountain just by doing some warping, make it a little more prominent, a little more like what I remembered. So I want to go about warping this image, and the way that I'm going to do that, I'm going to go Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E. On a PC, again, that's Control, Alt, Shift, and E. And then I'm going to go Command T on a Mac, that's Control T on a PC. And then I'm going to Control click here and hit Warp. That's going to let me start dragging this image around to stretch this thing out. I just want to make this mountain a little bit more taller and a little bit more prominent in the image. I want to be careful because I don't want to mess up my trees too much here. So this is all just a really slow process here of just kind of stretching the middle of this frame while at the same time not hurting my trees coming into the scene. Probably about right there. And that's looking pretty good to me. It's a really subtle change. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and I will show you guys the before and after. It is really subtle, but it is going to make a relatively big difference just by making our subject ever so slightly bigger. So let's go before and after, before, after, before, and after. So we've made it just a little bit taller, not too much, but it is looking really good now. So the next thing that I think that I want to do to this image is I want to go ahead and open a hue and saturation layer. And we're going to go in and actually, I think I'm going to go to the blues here, and I'm going to drop the saturation of the blues. It's a little oversaturated down here. Probably about to right there. And then on the layer mask, I'm going to go ahead and invert that by hitting Command I. I grab my brush tool with a white brush. I'm going to go about 30% opacity and increase the size of my brush here. And let's just paint this in. And you can see now, it's a really subtle change, but it is making a difference. I didn't want to reduce the saturation of the blues up here in the sky. Maybe I could actually around this part. Let's click maybe once or twice through here. All right, that's looking pretty good for me. So I'm liking what that's doing. Now, next thing that I want to do is actually do a little bit of dodging and burning. So I'm going to make a new folder. I'm going to make two new folders, actually. I'm going to say D/B sky, which just stands for dodge and burn. And then I'm going to do dodge and burn FG, which means foreground. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that same tool that we used before, the color range. And we're just going to look for a good selection of the sky. Probably about right there looks good. Let's go ahead and hit OK. I'm going to apply this to the sky. And now if you find that your selection isn't quite strong enough, you can see that we've got some whites down here still and some darks up here. You can actually just go ahead and hit Command L for levels or Command C for curves. And you can just add some more contrast, which will easily make your mask more black and white, which is what you want for a mask like this. Go ahead and hit OK. That one's looking pretty good. Now, once I'm happy with that mask, I'm going to go ahead and Command click or Control click on a PC. I'm going to apply this to the dodge and burn foreground, but I'm going to invert this. So the reason why I've made both these masks now is because now I can dodge and burn in this folder and only affect the sky, and I can dodge and burn in this folder and only affect the foreground. So I won't have to worry about painting over the edge, which you obviously don't want to do because it's going to look really fake. First thing that I think I want to do to the sky, I just want to create a new layer here. Let's try soft light first. I honestly just kind of want to paint a little bit of white. Maybe I'll sample a slightly blue color and add just a touch of color here. And we're going to go in with our brush. Let's go about 15%. And I just want to come through here right on the horizon. And when you use a big brush, sometimes Photoshop works a little bit slowly. And all that I'm doing here is just creating a little bit of glow here. And it's not much, it's really subtle, and you're not even really going to be able to tell that I did it until I toggle it on and off. So you can see before and after, before and after. You can try overlay as well if you want it to have a little bit more punch. That's looking pretty good. I might go with overlay and reduce the opacity slightly. You can see it's really subtle, but it just gives us a little bit of glow coming off the horizon. It adds some nice color in there. So that's really all the dodging and burning that I think I want to do for the sky. The other things that you could do is correct some color or add some color. Maybe you could boost the stars. There's a few different things you could do, but on a photo like this, I just want to keep it nice and simple. Now I'm going to go to the dodge and burn foreground. I'm going to create a new layer, and we're going to set that one to overlay. And I want to come in here with that same blue color, maybe a little less saturated, and I want to add to the mountain here. So I'm going to do some dodging here on the mountain just to add some dimensionality. So if you think about where the light is coming from, ultimately, as you can see on this mountain, the front of the mountain is darker than the side. So there's a little bit more light hitting the side. So let's accentuate that even more to help add some dimensionality to the scene. I want to drop this to about 10% opacity and just hit the side of this mountain. Just like that. And you can do that to a few spots here if you want. You could even hit somewhere down here in the foreground. Maybe you want to hit this log here just on the edge to bring that out. I mean, there's a large variety of things that you could do here just to enhance the light in your scene. And I'm actually going to do it on here just a touch. Not a lot, but just once, I think, one click. And you can toggle that. You can see what that's done for us now. Let's go ahead and create another layer on overlay. You could do this all in one layer, but I like separating it so it's organized. I want to grab black now, and I want to come in here, and I just want to do a little bit of burning. So I'm just going to paint here. I'm going to burn this as well. I don't want that mountain to be so bright. And I'm being pretty sloppy with the brush right now. If I was doing this for real, I would probably take a little bit more time. But just for the sake of this tutorial, I kind of just wanted to do this nice and quick and easy. And you can see the before and the after. So we've added a lot of depth to the mountain, maybe even too much. We could lower the opacity if we find that it's too strong. And you can come down here and paint on the foreground as well. Maybe you want to spruce up these rocks, make them look really nice. There's a lot of different things that you can do here. I just kind of wanted to show you guys a little example of something that I might do. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at that with the dodging and burning. I'm feeling pretty good with that. So let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Next thing that I like to do to my Blue Hour photos is to add a little pop layer. So I'm going to once again hit Command, Alt, Option, Shift, and E, the merge all visible command, and get this layer here. And I'm going to make a pop layer. Now I have another video where I talk about my pop layer, which I've created an action for. If you want to create the action, I show you how to do it in that other video, which I will link here. But I'm going to show you guys really quick and easy how to do that. You're going to go up to Filter. You're going to go down to Sharpen, and you're going to go to Unsharp Mask. Then you're going to put in these settings, 50% radius of 40 pixels at threshold of 0 levels, and you are going to hit OK to let that load out. You can see it's really strong on the edges, but we are going to lower the opacity to maybe about 25% and toggle it. Then I can zoom in. So you can see that really what this does is it just kind of adds some contrast on the edges. It just makes the image pop. It looks really nice. Just like that. I'm really liking that. So I'm going to go ahead and call that good and move on. The next thing that I want to do after that pop is really kind of my last one or two steps. And one of those is going to be to use the vignette. Now, again, I have a custom vignette, which I have another YouTube video for. I will link that here. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you guys how I create that. I'm going to draw the circle here. And then I'm going to play the action. And the action does a few different things. Like I said, if you want to know how it works, I will link that video here. Now that this loads out, you can see it looks terrible to begin with. We're going to hide that layer, and we are going to go in here and toggle this. I have it set to soft light, but I'm actually going to change it to overlay. It's looking pretty good. All that this is a circle in the center, brightening the middle of the frame. All this is a circle on the outside, darkening the frame. But what I like about this custom vignette is I can hit Command T on a Mac or Control T on a PC, and I can transform this to warp it exactly how I want. So now I will Control click, hit warp, and just like I warped the image, I will drag this around Now on an image like this, you may want to use the luminosity blend mode so that you don't affect the saturation. I think I'm actually going to do that right now. We'll hit luminosity, and now you can see it's starting to look pretty good. So I don't normally use luminosity, but on a photo like this where it's really blue around the edges, I will, just so it doesn't mess with the saturation on the outside of the frame. And I just want to mess with the luminosity. And maybe right about in there looks good. Let's go ahead and hit enter. We'll let that one load out. Okay, and once that's loaded out, we can go ahead and toggle that off and on, off and on. And that really kind of brings the image home there. It really brings out the center of this subject. You can also go in and increase the opacity of this layer. Sometimes I'll go up even to 30%, and sometimes I will decrease the opacity of the vignette. Maybe we'll go to about 80%. And there we go. That is looking pretty good now. You can see how many times I toggle things on and off. It's so important in your workflow. Really, the last step that I'm going to take on this image is to do a little spot healing. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to drag it outside that vignette. And I'm going to grab my spot healing brush. And I'm just going to go in. The first thing that I see is this star. Oops. And I've made a mistake there. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. Okay, let's go back here to this layer. Make sure sample all layers is checked and grab your spot healing brush. I don't like the star right here, so I'm going to just click and remove it with the spot heal. And I'm looking for other things that might be on the edge that might be distracting. I'm feeling like this is probably fine. Maybe this right here would look better. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. You can see these are just really, really small things. And then maybe this star is really big and close to the tree, so I might want to get rid of that as well. So just some fine-tuned adjustments, nothing that's going to drastically change the photo, but they are things that I like to do in order to just kind of clean up at the edges of my photo. So that's looking pretty good. So that's pretty much how I go about editing my Blue Hour photos. You can see there's a couple steps that I take that are special or different than a regular photo. So hopefully you guys were able to pick up on those and use those on your own image. Alrighty guys, hopefully this was helpful for you. I showed you guys exactly how I edit my own Blue Hour images, and it's really simple and really easy. Follow along with this video, pause and play as you're doing it on your own image, and I think you will be really happy with the results. As always, I always love to hear what you guys have to think about this video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or you just want to show me an image that you edited using these techniques, please leave it below in the comments or shoot me an email, austin@austinjamesjackson.com. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next weekend. Bye-bye.